If you want to print your Gantt chart, and that includes not just printing to paper, but printing to PDF files so that you can email to other people or you can save as a snapshot in time, then we can do that. Now, what you need to remember is that the print settings you save for any of the views, be that the Gantt chart, the tracking Gantt, the network diagram, the settings are all individually controlled. So if in our file here, My Bedroom August Underway, for example, I'm currently looking at the Gantt chart, and if I zoom in a little bit, so I'm very close in, and then go to Print Preview, File, Print, which gives me the preview, I get the same zoom in on the Gantt chart there as I have in the view. So you need to recall that, because that can create a lot of paper, currently 64 pages. If I go back and change my view to the tracking Gantt, you'll see that I'm currently looking just at normal weekly view. And if I go to File and Print, I'm trying to print normal weekly view, which is only 4 pages. So the zoom is important because that gets retained when you go to print. Now, once you're in print, as we are now, there's a number of things we can control. We can control the date range. By default, it chooses the project range, but we can change that and limit things to a particular week, for example. I can change the orientation. Default is landscape because the Gantt chart goes across and that looks best. And I can change the paper size. So if I have access to a bigger printer, I could print on bigger pieces of paper. We also have page setup. Now this is important. In here, I can again choose the orientation. I can change the scaling, so I can actually make the file zoom in, or I can get it to squash on less pieces of paper. That's very much like Excel. I can choose the paper size, and I can set which is the first page number. Now it's down as automatic at the moment, but I could choose page 2 to be the first page. We then have margins, so I can control the margins. We have header and footer, which we will come back to shortly. And we have the legend. This here is the legend. Currently that's set to be on every page. You could create your own legend page, in which case that legend will be on its own page and the other pages will just have the Gantt chart and the tasks. Or you could have no legend. If you think everyone understands what the color coding is, then you could choose not to have a legend at all. So I say OK, we have no legend on any of the pages. The people have to know what they're looking at. If you go down, that only just has 3 tasks on the second page. So if I were to adjust the margins ever so slightly, okay, now we only have 1 task. I'll go back to page setup and tell it to squash itself onto 1 page wide. We only need 2 pages wide, but certainly 1 page tall. Okay, it manages, and I now only have 2 pages to print out. Now these settings are retained for this particular view. So this is our tracking Gantt. You would need to go through all these steps for any of the other views, so the Gantt chart, the network diagram. So we've turned the legend off. On the View tab, we can choose which of the columns, if I just scroll to the right, print all sheet columns. So all the columns of the currently selected table. So if I'd change to the cost table, that would be the table columns it would want to print. Or I can print the first 3 columns. I can even choose to print the notes. Now they will print at the end. Print blank pages. Now in our case, we've only got 2 pages, so none of them are going to be blank, but sometimes you will get a blank sheet if at that part of the Gantt chart there's actually no data, and fit the timescale to the end of the page. So instead of it just stopping at the end of the project, it continues to the end of that page just to make that piece of paper neat more than anything. Now, if I leave nothing in print all sheet columns or print the first 3 columns, then the columns that project will want to print are the ones you can see. So it's showing me here task name, duration and start because those are the ones exposed. If I just say OK and go back to the file and I move my big vertical bar to not show duration and start, when I then come back to print preview, you'll see it doesn't want to print them. It only wants to print the task name, the mode and the indicator column. as well as obviously the task numbers. Those have to be there. So we don't need to tell it which columns to print. We can just expose the columns that we wish to have printed. Now the header and footer are slightly different. Let's just move this over. You can see here the header already has some information in it, which is the name of the file. And in here we've got and file. So it's going to put the file name in, whatever file name that might be, and that appears here across the header. If I don't want the file name in there, I can delete that and actually put the text that I wish. I'll put bedroom renovation 2013. I can even format that to some degree. So I can push the size up. Let's go to 16, semi-bold. OK. And if I say OK, you'll see that that appears in the middle. So in that header section, we have a center section, which is what's gone in there. We also have a left and a right. If you imagine the header is actually split into 3 boxes, and the left-hand box, anything you put in here will automatically be left aligned. I could put the date in there. So I hover over these little icons. This one will insert the current date. And we get and date, so that it places today's date in there. OK, and you see today's date appears. Page setup, header, and in the right-hand side, I could again choose one of the pre-built options here, which includes the ability to insert an image, so you could actually insert your corporate logo. Or I could use one of the built-in project fields. So we've got the view name, the report name, the company name, the manager's name. That was a box we filled in the project information quite a few lessons ago. Let's put the manager's name into the right-hand side, so add, and it puts and manager. Okay, and Mickey Mouse appears up there. So the header is split into 3 sections. Anything in the right-hand section is right aligned, anything in the middle, center aligned, anything in the left is left aligned. And pretty much the footer falls into the same bracket. So you see in the footer we have left, center, right, and in the center we have page and page. So page is a piece of text, which is why page appears there, and page is the current page number. If I also put of, and then this field here, which is the number of pages, I get page and page of and pages, which displays of page 1 of 1 in the preview. In my file it says page 1 of 2, and on the second page 3 of 2, 4 of 2, 1 of 2. So because of the additional size of the header, I've actually increased the number of pages to 4 now. It's one task has sneaked over. So go back to page setup. Page 2 by 1 should actually be fitting in there, but it's just been pushed over too much. Let's reduce our margins some more. That might help. Okay, still not enough. Page setup, header. Could drop the font size down. So it's changing all the font size in the whole header to 8 points. Try and save some space. And we're in 3 now. 1, 2. It's the third one there. It's got a tiny little milestone showing there. That's what's causing that third page. The other setting that it picks up from your file, if we go back, is if you compress a summary section, as we have done there, then go to File and Print, we find that it also compresses that summary section. So what you do in the actual chart, the Gantt chart or the tracking Gantt, matters to the print settings. The columns you expose, they're the ones it wants to print. The rows you hide, those are the ones it doesn't want to print. The zoom you have on the timescale, that's the timescale it wants to print. So those settings you can do yourself within the actual chart, be it the Gantt chart or the tracking Gantt. And then you come into Print Preview and adjust anything you might need to adjust in the page setup, such as the headers, the footers, whether you would like a legend, any of the view options, and any of the page options. Okay. Once those settings are in place, we can actually go to Export, create a PDF file, and it will recall the print settings you've just used. I'm going to create a PDF called My Bedroom August Underway. Snapshot 1. OK. What range would you like? Well, the whole range, so the whole project. Include the document properties, yes please. Include the document showing any markup, fine, OK. And the PDF gets created. We can then open that PDF and see that it looks exactly the same as the Gantt chart settings we just made. Page 1, page 2, showing the tracking Gantt details for my bedroom. So that's printing, not necessarily printing to paper, potentially printing to PDF. All the settings you use in the page, so the columns you view, the zoom you've got, are retained under Print Preview, and then you have all the extra page setup options to set in Print Preview. But that has to be done per view. So the Gantt chart and the tracking Gantt chart would have to have their own page setup settings installed.